big question. How can the industry be more innovative when the government is inherently all about risk and risk aversion?
Industry, and I'm sure you already know this, and other people that follow me on LinkedIn have heard me talk about this. In the 1980s, there was a hard split. It just looks like an X. Industry skyrocketed with innovation and funding innovation, while government kind of just did one of these. It just kind of declined in terms of how much budget. And rightfully so. There was no mission, there was no call to action like we had with the space race to invest in something that's innovative. And why would we want to when we see industries taking it off? The public good is already there, right? Industry has the means. And we saw the biggest technological revolution happen in the last 30 years. Right now, we're seeing another one with AI, and it's incredible what industry has done. I think what we miss with government is there's a lot of innovation happening internally that is not public. And we just never talk about it, we never hear it. And government became risk averse for very good reasons. They were being overcharged. There was a lot of issue with validating commercial pricing because, as you know, right, being on the industry side, someone's pricing on industry is not the same as the other. We as consumers know that. We were just looking at contractors for siding for our house, for example.
Right.
The options that's included in the pricing is different across all 4 contractors that we talked to. Some people did wrapping, some did painting, some had some colors of siding, some didn't have others. And for the government, can you imagine receiving 200 proposals with all those varying options and trying to figure out how do you standardize this? How do you look at this? And then you put on something innovative, we don't know how to do this. We don't know what the end product looks like. We want you to give us a price based on your expertise of what it looks like. As someone fresh in the entrepreneurial world, right, trying to decide my own pricing 3 years ago, trying to figure out how to price out, where do I get a lab? Where do I get lab equipment? How do I do this? What is my risk? What is my profit? What is my profit margin? What is my management reserve supposed to be on there? Of course, your price is going to be super high. And so it's a huge risk for the government to say, that number looks great. I don't think that number makes sense. So that looks great. And so I think what we saw in the early 2000s was a lot of risk aversion because we had what happened during early 90s where there was a lot of, I would say, contractor abuse with the government system. There was a lot of cases about that in the 90s. In the 2000s, everyone that experienced that was like, well, prison is not worth this. So I would rather be safe. And then all of a sudden in the 2010s, right at the end, all of the leadership in government is like, go break things. And people are like, you're going to have to wait a minute because I'm going to stay out of prison and you're saying to go break things. How am I supposed to do that? So we have a little bit of change management going on.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
with the friends that I have in the government, I hear about hey, this is I'm working on something really cool. They can't tell me what it is, but they're like, we're solving a problem that we were thinking of bidding, but we decided we have the experts to build it ourselves. That's amazing. We would never hear that in the public, right? We don't hear the government has built something cool. We usually hear, company ABC built something really cool for the government, or somebody's doing this in the AI space. So I think it's a perception thing. It's what gets more media. And also, you toot your own horn when you're successful.
Right.
The things that I think the government is working on are so risky that they're not going to highlight the failure of the experiment because people love bad news. They love to see a failure of someone, a waste of tax dollar money. And I do air quotes because when you're inventing something, it is not it is not a linear path. So if you are learning from that and you're iterating, it's not a waste.
Right.
But I also know how the media tends to portray stuff. So we just have to be more careful. I think in some sense, we have to make the government feel comfortable with it. I think there's a lot of movement in the right direction. There's a ton of people right now. There's an uprising, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Alexa, there's so many people that are willing to be change makers, whether it's to help the government, in the government, or even people leaving industry to go to the government, which I think is significant. And it's starting. And I think that's something to take of note where we're going to see some change. But just like any large bureaucratic organization, we will not see the results of that until 2030.